Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the TransTEC Beetle, or the TransTEC Home 2.5. This quad is based on a lot of DJI components. We've got the DJI camera and the air unit, which is the VTX and the receiver. It's got an F4 flight controller mounted there to soft mounts, and it's got a Usbc port on it. And in the rear is a 25 amp 4-in-1 ESC. I've seen some specs list this as 1104 6800 kV. But I'm pretty sure it's these 1106s that are 6,000 kV. Also spinning GymFan 2540 props. We've got linear or whip antennas. The flight footage I'm going to show you is recorded directly from the air unit here on the SD card slot. I'm getting about 130 millimeters motor post to motor post. Bottom plate is full 3 millimeters thick, and the plate that you mount the air unit is 1.5 millimeters thick. It weighs almost 147 grams. I flew it primarily on these China Hobbyline 650 milliamp 4S batteries, which are probably closer to actually 750. With the battery, the weight is almost 235 grams. It also comes with a set of ducks if you need prop protection or that extra safety. With the ducks, it weighs 253 grams all up, so if you need to be under 250 grams, you're probably going to have to shave some weight off the battery or leave the ducks off. It also came with this blue voltmeter. I'm not sure if that comes in all packages. An antenna mount for crossfire antennas, a hex tool, an extra set of props from HQ, a light blue and clear canopy, a user manual, and look at that, you get stickers. So we have our typical slight breeze. Actually, it was a really nice day out. This is before all the rains that I've recently had. I should note that I was armed before this video started because, to my knowledge, in order to record with the DJI stuff, you have to arm. So I had to sync my audio, which I like to include that audio, the audio we would hear as a pilot or as someone who's watching the quad, not the onboard audio. The DJI air units do record relatively decent motor audio, but that's on board. That isn't what we hear. And so on this channel, I try to include the audio that we hear. So I had to do my sync clap before we started, and I was already armed. So our flight time is going to come in right at about 3 minutes and 50 seconds, and it's going to be a variable sort of flight. Our arm time is over 4 minutes, though. So calculate that with the battery that I was flying how you wish. There is a lot of weight here on a 2.5-inch prop, and I think when I review these things, I've kind of been thinking about these in two different ways. We've got the DJI side, and then we've got the quad side. Of course, the quad has to be designed around the fact that it's going to have a DJI component in it, otherwise it just doesn't fit. But my experience with the DJI stuff has been that it makes me fly differently. Not that I can't, whiz around or whatever, but I also have this desire to explore. And we'll see me here in a minute kind of take off and just do exploration. And that is because the range and the video feed is fantastic. It is unbelievably good. And I could really go anywhere I want. And as I was telling my wife about how I could just fly all over the neighborhood, here I go. I was telling my wife about it, that, it gets almost to the creepy side, but, I stay away from windows or anything like that. I'm just kind of cruising through the neighborhood. But I can see where now with the DJI stuff, there's a possibility of that creeper stuff going on, I guess, to a certain degree. Of course, if you're whizzing around, at least at a cruising speed, you're not going to run into anything. But I suppose there's also the chance that maybe there's a young lady who's out sunbathing and they don't want to be disturbed by a quad that might be coming through. I'm lucky. We don't have any young ladies in our neighborhood close by that might be out doing that. Most of the people who live in our neighborhood, their kids are all grown or their kids are real young. My kids are kind of in the middle, I guess. The neighborhood behind us has another set of kids that pretty much match our age. But anyways, something that I thought about was that with DJI stuff, if you have the radio as well as the goggles, you can do whatever sort of flight you want, wherever you want. Within its limitations, whatever those are. I haven't found them, but I remember when this stuff came out, everybody was raving about it, and they've issued a number of soft dates since then. So as far as the performance goes, you can feel that this has more weight than we typically have on a 2.5-inch prop. There's no doubt about it. There's no way around it. You can't get DJI on any product without feeling that weight. In this particular case, I was surprised with those motors, how much flight time, even with the variable sort of flight that we get. 4 minutes, 4+ minutes, depending upon if you count arm time and your fly time. That's pretty good. I could burn through a lot lighter quads in less than 4 minutes, so that surprised me a little bit because I really didn't expect that. I was sure pleased with it because it sure allowed me extra time to go explore. and it has good punches still. It's not going to be the one you want to take out to the track to try to win races against your buddies who are flying much lighter 2.5-inch prods if you're doing micro races of any sort. This is going to be more of a hobbyist sort of, you've got some flying that you want to do and you have made the investment, or you're going to make the investment into DJI stuff. I use the radio with this as well, and that may affect my flying a little bit because that radio is very thick, and I have yet to really find my comfort spot with that radio. But I figured I did a fair job, and I kind of represented the machine how I could with that radio. I should note that I did not include the OSD stuff. I just didn't find it useful. I found it hard to read the way the DJI creates that SRT file for the video that you can sync together in your video editing. I just find that hard to read. Maybe I'm so used to the Betaflight OSD stuff that I can't read that. But anywho, I didn't include that. If you want to see that in the future, please let me know. It's going to need to be a majority, though. If it's 5 people out of 3,000 that watch that want to see that stuff, I probably won't do it. But if it's 500, I'll probably look at it. So if you want to see the OSD stuff on the DJI stuff, if you're familiar with that, it doesn't look like Betaflight. Just be certain you know what you're asking for before you ask for it. But I can do it. So, of course, we've got Tpu Mount up here, which is surprisingly stiff. It does come with this ring. You do not have to fly it with this ring. It does pull off. You can actually buy these separately or print your own, depending upon your desired needs for protection. We have a 2-screw mounting pattern here for the camera, so you can set your angle with the lower screw and this TPU print. The tune that came on it seems fine for me. I did fly it on 3S, but my flight time was a little bit shorter and less aggressive, so I decided to go 4S. Of course, if you have 3S batteries, say you've got 3S 650s, it'll probably fly for about 35 seconds less than what you see in my flight. Of course, your punch-outs, your low throttle to high throttle will be a little bit less aggressive, but it's completely doable. Your battery also sits kind of near the rear, which is pretty normal for these micros that are carrying a DJI unit. It's really hard to get everything centered up. So I shove my battery kind of forward because of the mounting position. So I didn't have a full grasp of my battery, but the battery was big enough and I was able to get it tight enough that I felt like it was going to operate fairly well. I felt like it was going to be fine in that position. I didn't want it throwing off the quad in flight. I wanted to get that battery back to center. I did add this zip tie to the power lead because it comes right off the rear here. You can see it here in the back next to that post that's nicely labeled. It comes right off those pads and down here. I don't want those pads being ripped off if I have a crash. I did have a couple crashes. You can see some dirt there. I didn't want that ripped off, so I went ahead and put my zip tie on it. I just ran it over this way, and then when I mount my battery, I put the lead on that side and just kind of poke it backwards and connect it up. Gives me a little bit of slack. Well, actually what I do is I put that in there. If you can still see my fingers, I twist it around. Don't pull on it too much. So I have my balance lead. I put that on there, and I connect it up. I shift it as far forward as I can. So that's how I mount the battery. Only bring that up. Some minor details. We've got a battery pad here at the bottom that, you know, sometimes when we get quads, we get kind of generic battery pads, but we can see that this one's been cut specifically for this plate, which is a nice touch. I appreciate that. You can also see we've got recessed screws on the bottom. You get a look at the carbon fiber. They did cover the arms and the motor wires with heat shrink, so that's an extra step for assembly, which is kind of an indicator of some care taken in the assembly process. The USB-C port, it's not that it was a problem for me, but it threw me off. That's the first time I've run across a quad that had USB-C on it. So I had to find my USB-C cable because I don't have a lot of new stuff that uses USB-C. So I had to dig out that cable, and it's something that I wanted to bring up because if you order this and you're like me, you don't have a bunch of USB-C cables around, make sure you do because it does not come with one. Also, I thought the reception, I know I didn't show it to you, but the reception with just stock antennas, these whip antennas, it was pretty dang good. I was really surprised. I didn't, you know, obviously I didn't have any troubles. I flew out around my neighbor's house and kind of cruised through there. There was another flight when I went across the street and around all the houses. It was kind of late in the evening, so I went, like, if this is my house, I came around my house all the way across the street between those two houses, down behind the house directly across from mine, next to the gray house, and then around my neighbor's house, Gary and Diane, and then into my backyard. So even with these, I didn't have any problems. These LED lights are programmable. They're set for blue, at least when it's sitting on the ground and not armed, it's set for blue. I forgot to note if that changes or not, but I do know that they're programmable, and I do approve of their color choice. If anybody knows of a way with the DJI stuff to record before arming, I'm all ears. I did some research, not deep into the webs, but I did some research, and I didn't find where that was feasible or ever mentioned. If you know of a way to start the recording before arming, I would sure like to know, especially on the Caddx Vistas, because in the Vistas, all you have is the goggles, which I believe the Vistas are definitely arm-only recording. And that is one benefit to getting an air unit, is that you do have onboard recording. So you get the highest quality, most consistent recording you can. So if you're wanting to cruise and you're wanting footage of your cruising flight, or any flight really, this is kind of the way to go, unless you're going to be getting a third-party camera and mounting it to the quad, which I can't suggest for this. Obviously, you can see there I put a little piece of Scotch tape over there. That was just in case, you know, I have a crash. I didn't want to have an ejection, because if I have a crash, I would like to have the footage. I guess I could always use it on the goggles, but I just didn't want to lose another card. If you watch all my videos, you know that I lost a card in the Mobula 6 HD review when I was flying that outside. So I took a little extra protection this time with a simple piece of Scotch tape. Or one of these holes is the reset, I believe, and the other one is just a light. Indicates whether you're linked up or not. I may not have mentioned it, but this is stuck down with some 3M double-sided tape, and it is very sticky. I believe it's 3M. I don't know what the bonded weight of that tape is, but I think once you have it down, you're going to need some more, because I suspect it's going to rip off one side or the other and not stay on this carbon plate. It's just really stuck down. You can also see how tightly their limits are for their manufacturing on fitting this unit in. I do appreciate that they got it fairly square in the center. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with these. I'm glad that I made the investment, because I did have to buy the goggles and I did have to buy the radio. But on the other side of that, I just used money that the channel creates, so that didn't actually come out of my pocket. So getting invested in DJI stuff, that is a long conversation you have to have with yourself and your budget and your significant others. But it does create a different level of, for me, it creates two different things. It creates different flight that I really enjoy, which is more just exploratory. And it also, even on the most modest flying DJI system, I enjoy it at a higher level than the performance would indicate, if that makes any sense. You can buy this unit without a DJI unit, so if you have the Air unit already, or if you have a Caddx Vista that you would rather go to, which would be a smart move to reduce weight, maybe you've got a Nebula camera. I've got that stuff right over here. I'll be getting to it relatively soon. Oh, that's the Ant camera. I've got that one as well. But yeah, so Nebula and Vista, I'll be getting to those things soon. You know, I'm not in a rush around here. I don't need a video a day. I can't keep up. The price without the DJI Air unit or any DJI stuff in it is $138. And right now on the TransTEC website, you cannot buy it with the DJI unit included. If I go over to Race Day Quads, I see it listed with the Air unit at $309, although it's currently coming soon. I do know that Get FPV and Pyro Drone, as well as Newbie Drone, are also going to be resellers of this when they do come out. If they're just, maybe they already came out and then they got sold out. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe I'm late to my review and everybody's been ordering these things like mad. But that's the pricing. You can look at it yourself. I'll put links down in the video description down below if you'd like to go to some of those resellers to check out the current listings and prices. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in that section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.